load. I don't have a lot of space on my computer because I have some.
Quit talking. Because you're live.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Whether you've got a meow or a woof in your life, we want to welcome you to the first episode of the Furbabies Podcast. We're here to help you with your four-legged friends, whether in your passion for protecting your pets. Whether you've got, like I said, a meow or a woof, Steph's here to help you. She'll be interviewing some amazing people, some amazing experts on their passion for helping our four-legged friends out there. So without further ado, here's your host, Stephanie Goodman.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I can see myself.
There you go. So, Stephanie, you have been a long time, lover of animals. They're your kids, right?
They are indeed.
So for those of you that don't know who Stephanie Goodman is, because we are live streaming this first episode live on Facebook to help with comments and questions and all sorts of good things. Tell everybody out there in the fur world a little bit about yourself.
I am a happy fur baby mama of 4, was 5. What else would you like to know?
Well, tell them about your kids.
I have 3 happy cats, 3 happy meowers, and I have one very sweet and lovable barker who's actually sitting off to my left. We have a golden lab who is in her 17th year of glory, and she's an absolute sweetheart. Absolute sweetheart. She's a total nurture bug. I've got a lovely cat who is jet black. She's like the female version of a mini panther, and she is going to be 15 on April the 8th. It is that specific. I've got a little tabby cat who is going to be 12 this August. She's
the talker of the bunch.
She is the talker of the house. She talks to everybody. She loves everybody. She will come and lay in your lap and give you snuggles and bats, and she loves to give you a facial in the morning. She really does.
You, not me. You.
What
about your third one? About Captain Shit?
I have some friends out there who are really close to her, and she's tried to give them facials too. But she's a sweetheart. She's an absolute doll. And then I've got a very sassy tuxedo cat who is going to be, well, he is actually almost 12. And he's the one that you guys probably see the most on Facebook, more than the others, because he lends himself well to pictures. He's not afraid of the camera, and he has one heck of a fun, feisty personality. And for those who like to pick on me and make fun of me, he sleeps on my head at night.
Yes.
Every
that
night.
Is the truth. I can vouch for that.
Paws under the chin. It's his job to protect mom. So
that's awesome. You've had those cats for a while. We'll get to more of the personalities of your pets here in a few minutes. But let's talk a little about your passion and kind of where did the Furbabies Podcast come from? What inspired it? And go from there.
I like that question. Scott's really good with the questions. Actually what really inspired it was two things. One, I've always had a huge passion for animals. I don't have human children. So I have a lot of friends who do, and those are my godchildren, but I've always had an affinity and a natural bond with animals. A lot of my close friends will joke if there's a cat or a dog in a parking lot or somewhere running around by themselves or whatever, it's like a magnet to me, and off we go. And I joke that I have if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings and you see the little target on the Hobbit door, that's like my house. But I love that. And I've done different things with volunteer groups and trying to donate and, trying to work with groups who do a lot as far as spay and neuter and transport groups. Those are some of my favorites now, and I've got a really good one that I work with and some really, really awesome rescue groups that I would love to share later. But our goal is to cut down on the amount of animals that are euthanized every year and increase the amount of animals that get homes and people that love them, because they have more love to give than just about anything I know. The thing that inspired me to do this, because I never would have done it on my own. I think Scott's been pushing me for 6 weeks. And Tom and Tracy, thank you.
Tracy Hazard with Potted Ties, some friends.
Yes, because they're brilliant and awesome, and they are like, quit being a dork. You can go do that. We went to a Podfest conference about 6 weeks ago, and these guys right here. So we went to a Podfest conference, and as we were sitting there listening to all the people who had podcasts, and we went down there for learning for Scott's podcast for the Note Closer show. And as I was sitting there listening to all these amazing speakers and normal people who came in and would share stories and, inspirations about everything you could think of, it hit me that there really weren't people out there talking about their animals or about, our fur babies. There's a lot of people out there for domestic abuse and for women and for children, and that's awesome. I support that 100 times all day long. But there's just not a lot out there for animals. And so as we got to thinking about it, I was like, I have a dozen things at any given time that I can sit down and talk about for animals. And I have so many friends in the rescue world, and I have so many friends that are also work colleagues or note colleagues, people in the note investing world that do this, that it's a shared passion with us. And no matter what kind of event that I ever go to that we speak at, I can sit down and have a conversation with somebody about their babies, their four-legged babies. And it's a great way to bond, a great way to share. And then you get people involved in other projects and rescue groups and volunteering. And so the ball gets bigger, if that makes any sense. So the guys out at Podfest really helped to inspire that as a possibility. And then Scott was very, very inspirational as that.
Well,
that is a possibility.
You kind of you were sitting at round tables talking with everybody else, kind of bummed that you had to network with people.
Oh, I was.
He was absolutely in a mood. Like, really? You're going to make me network with everybody? Really? And I'm sitting there, I'm like talking about, no, it's my passion. I'm like, literally, she should start this podcast. And so literally we went back to the room, we got to talking and about it and did some research. And there really wasn't a true podcast based for your pets and fur babies was available, which she loves to call it. And so that night you didn't sleep that much, did you, Steph?
No, I didn't. I was, and I don't sleep very well anyway. I say that all the time, but I was up until about 2:00 in the morning, and I was just like rapid fire texting notes and ideas into my notepad. And it was all the things that all of us in the rescue world have dealt with and encountered and, come up against, fought and won, or hard lessons that we've learned. And I've had, even with my babies, with the ones that aren't even here anymore, I've had things where they've had some pretty tough diseases, and some of them we've won, some of them we've lost. But what killed me was I've talked to other people that I'm friends with on Facebook. God loves social media, but I'm friends with on Facebook, and they'll come in and say, oh my God, my cat has kidney failure. Yeah, well, I know a lot about cats having kidney failure at this point. And so I can reach out to them and say, hey, here's, to be helpful and loving, here's kind of an idea of what you're about to go through, and here's some things that might help, because we went through that. That's
a good point. That's a passion for you, because you've really dug into and shared a lot of great stuff on the different Facebook groups that you're part of and some of the different boards. Do you want to share a couple of those boards for people that are interested in either in cats or dogs that you're a big part of?
I do. My memory, because I'm nervous, gets a little fuzzy sometimes. But there's one for chronic feline kidney disease that is on Facebook that's amazing. And I can actually pull up the link for that if I can get to my Facebook. But that group is phenomenal. It is, I had a kidney cat, and he was my baby.
What does that mean when you you had a kidney cat? What's that mean?
Thank you. I have a tendency to go off and, yeah. So he developed kidney disease, and he was 12 years old. He was getting close to being 13. We actually had a very long conference trip. And when we got back, a good friend who was taking care of my babies while I was gone and did great by them, thank you, texted me kind of out of the blue and said, hey, he's not really eating very well, which was kind of a red flag for me, because we'd gone through something similar before, but it wasn't kidney failure. And so long story short, I took him into the vet, and right when I got home, which was 2 days later, And at first we thought he had pancreatitis, which is a beast, but you can fight that. But when the labs came back in, our vet said that he had 4th stage kidney failure, which is chronic renal disease or chronic renal feline disease. And it's a death sentence, which is just really, really hard. And the caveat to that is that you can, if the cat is strong enough and wants to still fight and still be here, there are things that you can do to try to help stabilize them and give them a good quality of life while they're still here. Some cats don't make it that far, which is really, really sad. My cat in particular was a heck of a fighter, and he was determined. He wasn't going anywhere yet. And that cat, bless his heart, his name was Mitsuru. Mitsu had really, really, really high creatinine levels, which is something that they measure with kidney failure. And my vet, who I've known for 10 years now, at the time I'd known her for 8. She's an amazing vet. I love her to death. It's the Cat Hospital of Austin. Dr. Percival, she's awesome. They didn't think he was going to live through the week. He did. He actually did. And then he went on to live for 8 months.
Wow. Why don't you share with people a little bit about some of the things that you were doing to take it from a week or a month to 8 months, Steph? Talk about that. Because I think people think about kidney failures, okay, his piss is turning a different color yellow or got pimples in it or isn't peeing, you know what I mean? For the layman out there, somebody who's not as well read as you are with the pet journals and pet boards, what are some signs of that kidney failure? What were some of the things that popped up firsthand? We can dive into that a little bit for people.
You know, it was interesting. For me, and I told my vet this. I said, and I felt terrible. I mean, the guilt for it is horrible. I told her, I said, you know, the only thing that I noticed with him that seemed remotely a little bit off was that he started drinking water. And cats, usually, if they have a good diet, they get their water from their food. So they'll drink water, but you've got cats that are diabetic who drink a lot of water, and you've got cats that have CRF and they drink a lot of water. But it just didn't register to me at the time, you know, there's something wrong with his kidneys. Because he had had a checkup not that too long before. Everything came out fine. But I noticed, like, for 2 months before we left, that he was drinking a little bit more water. And it wasn't enough even then to say, you know, I think something might be really funky with this. When it was over, when he got diagnosed with it, you bet your bottom dollar I went through and like psychoanalyzed every single thing he did for 2 months prior. And that was the thing that stuck out to me. He never went outside of his box. His behavior didn't change. His appetite didn't change. The only time his appetite changed was the day that my friend texted me and said, you know, I think it's kind of funny. He's not really wanting to eat a whole lot. He'll go and he'll eat, and then he'll have a few bites. He'll walk off, but he comes back. And so at the time I thought, well, maybe he's got a bum tooth, you know, because that can happen. Mm-hmm. We're going to get him into the vet and get his teeth checked. We'll have a look at that. And, give him whatever he wants to eat at that point, because it's more important for them to eat, you know. So he did. And when I got home, it was really strange because I must have gone through like 15 different types of cat food, wet food, trying to get him to eat something. And he just really didn't have the appetite. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was the trigger. But by that point, for him, you know, cats are notorious, and dogs are too. And I'm looking at Princess right now, and I say that. Dogs are notorious. Cats are notorious.
Steph. One cat, one animal right now. Focus.
They just are so stoic. They hide everything. So it's really hard sometimes to tell there's something going on until it's really dramatic. So one of the things that we did, we put him on 24/7 an IV drip of fluids, which was designed to flush out his system of the toxins, because when they go into kidney failure, their kidneys stop processing everything to get the toxins out, long story short. And our vet thought that getting, an IV drip in him would push out everything, flush his system, bring down some of the levels that they use as markers to say how bad it is or what stage they're in.
So how long did that 24/7 drip? You're talking 7 days for 24 hours?
He was there at her office for 4 days. And then I took him to a specialty clinic to have an ultrasound done, because they wanted to actually physically get in there and look at his kidneys and see if something was visibly showing up that would give us a clue and kind of tell us if he had an infection or not.
Or blockage or anything like that?
Yeah. So they checked for everything. And, his lab values were off the charts. I took him to a specialty clinic up in Round Rock. It was the Heart of Texas specialty vet care clinic. And they're amazing. They're really, really, really great people, great staff. And he got plugged in with an internist, which I didn't even know cats had internists, which was pretty cool. He got plugged in with her, and she became his primary vet for the next 7 months. So they did the ultrasound, and it showed that both of his kidneys had degenerative changes with age, which was expected, but his right kidney had something kind of like a halo around it, and it just didn't look good. And so her assessment to me was that something happened. We didn't know what. We still don't know what. Something happened to trigger a crisis event in that kidney, and it just sent everything, off the rails. And that was what triggered it. So nobody really knew at that point how long he had, had that or how fast it progressed, because it's different for everybody. But we did fluids. He spent, all in all, about 12 days in the kitty ER, all totaled from both offices. The vet techs there were really great. I mean, they became, for me, it was like a second family, because they worked so hard to help, and they genuinely loved the babies they were taking care of. And that's something that you really crave, especially when you think yours is not going to come home. And when he did, it was on a Sunday. It was August 12th, as a matter of fact. And I brought him home, and I was terrified that he wasn't going to make it, through the night or for the week or anything. My job was to start giving him fluids, which
24 hours straight?
No, it was, we took him off the 24-hour drip, and then my job was to give him fluids in the beginning every day. And so to do that, you give them their fluids right under, it's like a little tent in the skin by their neck, by their shoulders, right in that. And it helps to keep their kidneys flushing things out.
So how much fluid did you have to give them every day?
A lot. And it's funny because I've read a lot of other accounts of fellow owners who have cats with kidney disease, and they might give, 50 mils or 75 a day or every other day. I was giving him 200.
Wow. 200 cc's? Or?
200 ml, 200 mils.
Okay.
So, and
about the size of your hand?
About like that.
Okay, that's a bit of a fluid.
He took it, and the interesting thing was too that with them you have to make sure that their heart can handle the amount of fluid load they're getting, and so we went in and did a test on his heart to make sure his heart was still strong, and thank God it was. I mean, he was. Even they said he's a fighter and he's a sweetheart too. So, he tolerated the fluids very well. He never fought. In fact, sometimes if I was running behind on giving him fluids one particular day, I would find him on my table waiting for me like, hey, Mom, it's time. Where's my fluids? Come on, let's do this. And so he was just very, very gentle about it. He was a doll. He looked like a little miniature panther.
He is the brother of your other.
Yes.
Yeah.
He and my girl who's jet black, Fury, they were litter mates. They were actually brother and sister, and we rescued them from a gal actually here in Austin who at the time, I hope she still does it, but at the time she was rescuing beagles, and she had found these 2 litters of cats, and one was a litter of black cats. Mama was nowhere to be found. We don't know what happened to her, unfortunately, but she rescued them, and they were teeny tiny little babies, tiny. And when I got them, Mitsu, he was 2.9 pounds, right at 3 pounds, which was enough to get him neutered. And Fury, though, was only like 2.3, so she was still too small. And she would fit in she was tiny. She was actually the runt of the litter, and he was the biggest one of the litter. So they were, his head was always bigger than his body, and his forepaws were huge, and then he grew into them, and it was cute. So yeah, they were related. And,
So
I could talk about him all day. So
Say what again, Steph?
I said I could talk about him all day, but
yes, let's transition a little bit there for people, because you had him passed on, fortunately, but you were able to extend his life about another 8 months, correct? 9 months.
8 months, right?
And lived in he was really good, except for like the last week. You had to take him back in for regular checkups and things like that.
I did, and it was the anniversary of his passing was March 26th. So.
Okay. Now, for people that need more interested, how did you find information for those that are going through those issues with their felines? Is there a place to go? Did you search?
I devoured the internet, and I asked my vet, and she gave me some things to look through and look up, and I read every bit of it. And I'm happy to go back in and pull those and post the links because I have them saved. I don't remember specifically,
Sure.
this title, but I have them saved. And the group that I'm a part of that focuses, that's all they focus on is cats with kidney failure. They have so much information there. And so for people who come up that are friends of mine that have, that problem, I'm like, go here. They're very supportive.
Okay. Question for you. Because I'm sure some people are very, they're like, wow, you were able to have your cat live another 8 months. But let's talk about the numbers behind that. What did that cost you? Let's get to the numbers of that. Because some people are like, I don't know if I can afford to pay for my cat for 8 months of food every day. What did it roughly cost you? And did you have insurance or pet insurance that helped with that?
So I really don't want to throw out the actual number because some people will be disheartened by that and some people might flame me for that.
Steph, this is a podcast. Share the info. Share it. Look, if I don't blast you for it, nobody else can do it. If anybody blasts you, I'm going to kick their ass. So share the number, all right?
No, because it's a hard thing. And some people, I was very fortunate I had money set aside and saved, and that was not what I was intending to put it towards. But when it happened, especially initially, that initial, when they're there in the emergency clinic, you're faced with two things. And it's like, I'm going to keep going until I can't or until and that number is different for everybody. And I'm very, very sympathetic to that number. Like it's hard, it's different. For me, that number from the very beginning and up until he passed on hovered around $8,000 to $9,000.
Okay. Now, is there insurance that helped out with any of that?
So there was the terrible thing through a mistake of my own. I had accidentally let their I've had them on pet insurance for a very long time, and I let their insurance lapse in 2014 due to just a simple change in a debit card, credit card, that kind of thing.
It can happen to anybody.
Yeah, it can happen to anybody, and it has. And every time, your bank sends you a new card and you have to go change your autographs, well, every now and then you miss one. And they had been fine for so long. When I missed it, I was like, well, we're doing pretty good right now. Okay, cool. I will never do that again. So when he was diagnosed, he was not on insurance. And after he was diagnosed, you better believe I went and put the other ones back on it.
Sure. What would that have saved you as far as cost? What would that save you? Do you know what it would have saved you?
Their coverage is set to pay anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 out of pocket for the year. So I would have paid 10% of his bills and the initial $200 for the deductible. So it was a heck of a learning experience for me.
Sure.
And
who do you recommend for pet insurance there? And what does that cost monthly?
I use Embrace, and I've had them for years actually. And for me, they've always worked out really well. With a lot of pet insurances, I had to pay the cost up front. And then I just send in the bills and the notes from my veterinarian's office, and they reimburse me. And with Embrace, they reimbursed really fast. So I always had great things to say about them. I still do. My cats are on them right now. As far as cost monthly, there's a couple of variants. Mine's about the highest. So it's about $40 per cat.
That's not bad. About $500 a year for your fur baby. And then you pay.
And I mean, it's a bar bill, it's a one-day bar.
It's a heavy bar bill. That's some heavy drinking at $500.
It's a good bar bill, right? Or it's a Vegas bar bill. Or it's, your lattes for the month or whatever. It's cheaper than human insurance. It's crazy.
So that's great for people to know. Embrace. You talked about the cat hospital that really helped out with everything that was going on with Mitsuru. Let's talk about another passion for those that are listening or watching, because we got quite a few people watching, which we want to thank.
Really? I can't see.
Yeah, you're not on it. That's why I'm producing this for you. So,
that's so lovely.
You have some questions, some comments. We always like to take questions and comments on here. So first and foremost, Laura Jordan says hi.
Hi, Laura.
My Tuxie used to sit in the bathroom and talk to the handsome cat in the mirror all night long. Okay.
I bet he did.
Lois Curcio, I think is her pronoun, says, hi, Stephanie. Laura Jordan says, I don't have pics of my current only baby right now, but I will share when I get her back from the foster this year, because I told people if they got a pet to feel free to post them in the conversations.
Thank you.
Laura also says, feline LV or FLV is the worst I've dealt with, but both babies lived for 4 years old. Okay. And then she says, Laura says, there is a cat in Vancouver that I know that through Tiny Kittens, Kitten Cam, who lives with kidney failure also. If I remember right, his name is Granda Mason, and he helps take care of new litters of kittens that Shelly fosters. Which is
it's
awesome.
Grandpa Mason. That's who she's talking about. Oh, yeah. He's awesome. He's such a sweet guy. Cool. He's sort of like an internet cat star. You know, like you have cats of Instagram. He's a Facebook cat star.
Cool. And then you've got people watching, like Michelle Young is watching, Pari's watching, Robert Burrow, Casey Lang are watching. So big shout out to all those watching. Give us a thumbs up. Give Steph some love here for the Furbabies podcast. So
thank you.
Now you have a passion. You donate to different pet charities. You like to volunteer, but obviously your hectic schedule with my schedule makes it a little difficult to do stuff on a regular basis. So what's one thing that you've been really passionate about in the last 6 months, for the most part, and really trying and striving to do something monthly with? What's a big passion of yours?
So one of those, I love to transport, because a hard thing, and I'm just going to be honest with you, a hard thing for me is going into shelters and pulling. I have a really, really hard time with that. And I have a lot of friends who are just so amazing at it that I'm in awe of them.
Is that because you want to take them all home?
It is because I want to take them all home, and because it just hurts so much that so I try to do what I'm good at, and I try to deploy my resources where they can really, plug in holes and gaps and help. So yeah, I will see people who post things on social media. Again, all hail social media. And I say this is the power of social media, because you can have somebody that's in North Carolina that's posting about a cat that they've rescued, and dogs, they do it for both. And somebody in California could be randomly, scrolling through Facebook and see this, this image and the picture and the story and go, holy crap, my dog just died 2 months ago. I really want to get a new dog, or I want to pick up this new cat, but I live in California. How can I get the cat to me, right? And so there's groups that come in that actually meet that need, which it's very niched out, but it's growing. And there's several of them. But one of the ones that I started working with, and I've got a lot of really good friends there. I've got some friends I've known for quite a while now who are like sisters, but it's the Cat's Meow Transport. And it's CATZ Meow Transport. So the Cat's Meow Transport. And we're nationwide. So there are volunteers all across the country. It's not based just out of one state. And there are rescue groups that will pull all across the country. And then they'll reach out and they'll say, hey, we've pulled this cat. They're with a foster. We've got an adopter that lives plug in a state, And what happens is you'll have people who come in on the weekends or during the week and say, I want to go do something for an hour or 2 hours. And so in the Cat's Meow, they have coordinators that come up and say, all right, you live here, you live here, you live here, the cat's here, we need to go there. And they set up a route based on where the volunteers live, and they each come in and drive anywhere from 20 miles to 100 miles. They volunteer, an hour or 2 hours of their time on a Saturday or a Sunday or even a Friday. I know you're making that funky face. But yeah, it's the coolest thing to watch these roll across country. And we have Facebook groups for them. And so they post their pictures, and from one volunteer handoff to another, the two things: the cat's getting where the cat needs to go, and the people are so happy while this is happening, because it's something that they can get out and do and feel like they're giving back while they're doing it. And it's simple. It's not, all they spend is their gas and maybe some wear and tear on their car. So you've got the drivers, and then you've got the ones that are
full-blown cat ladies. The full-blown cat ladies are the next level.
I'm a full-blown cat lady, and that's fine. And I'm a dog person too, so don't think I'm not. I am. But I've not flown a dog before. I would. I do fly cats. But you've got people like me that have we've traveled so much that we have a bunch of points, miles, things like that with our airline of choice. Or you've got volunteers that are wives of pilots, things like that. or they're flight attendants, and so they can fly. It's really cheap. And we'll get on a plane, and the fee is taken care of. We'll get on a plane and we'll fly with the animal, the cat or the dog, to where they're going. And no, they do not go in the overhead bin.
We'll cover that in a later episode.
Yeah, that's another episode. But beyond that, they're very well loved. They're very well taken care of. They're very well cuddled. But we fly with them in the cabin, and we get them to their mama or their dad or their family. And so I've been doing that now. I started up doing it again in August of last year because I had to take a hiatus from it for a bit. I started doing it in August last year, and my first one that I got to transport was a little kitty. She's a little tuxedo cat, and her forever name is Amelia, and her mama lives in Escondido in California. And if memory serves, she came out of North Carolina. And
so you went all the way to North Carolina to pick her up, or where'd you?
I didn't. She was driven into Dallas. I've got a really good friend up in Dallas who does a lot of rescue and things like that. Actually, a couple of them. And these gals brought her down, met me midway between Austin and Dallas. And I drove back down to the airport, jumped on a plane, and flew her happy little butt out to Escondido. Well, to San Diego. Mama came in from Escondido. So. But it was the coolest thing. It's so much fun, and it takes a day to do it. And I've got one that I'm working on right now where I'm going to Atlanta. Hi, Rami. I'm going to Atlanta, and I'm going from Atlanta to Phoenix because Mama lives in Phoenix, and then I'm coming back home to Austin. So for Scott, those are very long days for me. He's like, "Can you please get back home before 3 a.m?" Well, I try. Sometimes I drive to Dallas and fly.
Thank God for lots of Southwest flights.
And you know what? To that end, thank God for Southwest too. Every time I have flown a cat so far, everybody loves it. I mean, and I am sensitive to people who have allergies and things like that. And if you're sitting next to me and you have an allergy, I will move. I will. I'm not that kind of person who's mean. But everybody with Southwest has always been very accommodating and very kind, and for the most part, it's a very pleasant experience.
So you're saying Southwest is the preferred airliner of the Furbabies podcast?
For me personally, yeah.
Okay. Question for you. Have you ever had an accident happen on a plane? I mean, have they ever, because you were taking off something, have you ever had an accident where the cat made a mess and it was not a happy experience?
Who asked that?
Hey, these are the stories people want to hear, trust me.
Did somebody ask that, or is that you?
It's me being producer and priming you for softballs here.
Okay. Yes. And it was a first, and I learned a lot from that.
First of all, why don't you set the stage? Do you carry them in your hands? Do you carry them in a box? How do you transport the cats? Is it a special type of bag or anything, Steph?
I transport them in a, I wish I could get up and go get it. I would show you. It's like a cat carrier. Right.
It's a Delta Airlines cat carrier.
Actually, it is. It's so weird on the tag. It does say Delta, but it's a Sherpa carrier. Like I get them off of Amazon.
So do they carry like little Sherpas from like the Tibet?
That's what I thought too. It's not a little Sherpa. It's the type of carrier. It's got a little cat in the bottom that's really fuzzy, and so that's the Sherpa part.
It's not a FedEx box with holes punched in it.
No, it's not a FedEx box with holes. And Scott would never do that because I would murder him in his sleep, but he wouldn't do that. He just jokes about it. He actually is very loving to animals, which is a great thing. Hi, Rami. Speaking of tuxies, my little one's here. So I fly them. We have cat carriers that are approved. They will fit legitimately under the seat in front of you, which is where they're required to go. If you're very lucky and you're on an early flight or whatever and nobody's next to you, sometimes you can put them on the seat, but they go in front of you. So I'm going to leave that out there. But I fly them in those, and they've, so this one sweet little girl, God bless her, we were on a bit of a long flight. It was kind of a longer day, and if memory serves me correctly, we had to I flew her out of Austin up to Baltimore. And we were okay in the Baltimore flight, and we made the connection from Baltimore. I think it was into Hartford. I think I was flying into Connecticut that time, which was cool because I'd never been to Connecticut before. And I've been all over the States, which is fun. But that was a first. And it was really funny because she, at the end of it, she was under the seat in front of me, and she was just as sweet as she could be. She was a total doll. And all of a sudden...
She became a little shit?
No. I just noticed a rather pungent odor.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, legitimately, the gentleman in front of me had been knocking down beer like it was, it was a great day for him. And that's fine. But I thought he was just kind of, unloading. My neighbor catty-cornered to me thought the same thing. We kind of looked at each other and shared the... And then it hit me. What am I doing in front of me? And we started to descend, and I had that horrible feeling of, oh, shoot. You just went to the restroom in her carrier. I know you've got a button for that somewhere.
Yeah, I do. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if that would be it.
Kind of like that.
Or did you feel like doing this?
I felt like doing that. And it was so funny because, yeah, there was a lot of that too. And there wasn't that, but there was a lot of the first one. She had gone to the restroom, and it had been a while that morning.
So she went number one, number two?
Oh no. She went out with flair.
Number one or number two? Number two? Okay. So what happened? How long were you on the plane stuck that way? A few minutes? Or you landed already?
And as we landed, more people besides me realized it was not the gentleman in front of us. In fact, it was her.
So when you got out of the plane, was she messy? Did you have to go clean her up, or was it okay?
She was actually okay. I got to give her credit for that. A lot of cats are very fastidious little creatures, and they're like, oh my God. So this crate is like this long, and well, it's like this long. It's going to go off the screen. But she had gone in the back of the crate, and she scrunched herself to the front of the crate. And so when I picked her up, it kind of, so I had to balance it. And I made a beeline off that plane. But as I was going, I thought, well, I'm sure it happens. I mean, there's babies. It happens all the time. I said, you know what? I think she really had to go to the restroom. I'm sorry. I apologize. But we're going to the restroom for real.
So do you keep her collared or anything like that? Is there a harness for the cat?
I do, just because when I go through, and I've done both, but if it's a cat that I've gotten to spend some time with, and I'm, it's hard to say. You can kind of tell, but for the most part, 9 times out of 10, I harness them just for that extra degree of I can hold on to something. Because when you go through TSA, they make you take your kitty out of the carrier, and you can opt for a private room, which has its merits, has its cons, or you can go straight through the individual x-ray machine, and they'll scan your hands, and then it's done, it's over. They go back in their crate and everything's great. And that's usually what I do. But I do try to harness them as much as I can. And I think there's only been one where I didn't, and she was cool. She was so chill. She was fine. And she just nuzzled her head right into my neck, and everything was great. But yeah.
Cool.
They're, they just clip on. They go under their chest, around their belly, to their back, and it's cool. There's a leash that goes with them as well. So
cool. How many transports have you done so far?
Hang on.
6, 7?
I think 7.
Okay. Now, are all those flights like across the country? Or are you driving places, or what's the situation with that? So the reason I'm asking is most people are thinking these cats are flying across the country, and that's not always the case. Sometimes they hit a dead spot, right?
Oh yeah, sometimes they hit a dead spot.
But they turn, and then the people that picked them up are cat B&Bs, so Airbnbs, all right?
Yeah, we have cat B&Bs. So You'll have literally they call them bed and breakfast, and so one of the transport rescue group that I work with, the transport group, they call them bed and breakfast, and so
the name of that transport group again?
The Cat's Meow Transport.
Yeah. Okay. And you'll have 1 or 2 of those people on in a later podcast to talk about that, to share that?
I sure hope so. I expect to.
They have a Facebook group that people can find out more information on?
They do. And if I could get it on my Facebook, I would post the link in a heartbeat.
We'll get that all taken care of here in the comments and quotes afterward. That's not a problem. So you've had some experiences. You've flown to El Paso, picked up El Gato, and brought them back to Dallas or back home. Most of your stuff is over in a 24-hour period, right?
Yeah, I try to get it done in a day, just because of our travel schedule. So I try to get it done in a day. I have had some cats that I've picked up and I've brought them, like I've driven either to Houston or to Dallas or whatever, or past Houston to go pick them up. And they'll stay at the house for a day or a couple of days, and then I'll jump on a plane and fly them home to mom. Sometimes it's easier for me to do it in the middle of the week, and because we personally have a lot of events on the weekends. Most people do a lot of transports on the weekends. So if a cat comes to stay with me, it's because mom has, a normal job during the week and is available on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. But yeah, I've in Texas, I think my very first one that I ever did was because of a dead zone. And by dead zone, we just don't have enough volunteers from that place into the rest of Texas because Texas is so huge.
Sure.
And it really, really is. And if you've never driven all the way across Texas, try it sometime. It's enlightening.
Is there a cost for that? I mean, for people to be a member or something as a transport for those that want to get involved, besides going to Facebook and
no, there's no cost. The only thing that people will spend money on is their gas, maybe the wear and tear on their car, and their time. Sure. And we have members in the groups that come in and they make things for the cats and for the dogs. They make, there's one gal that comes in and makes these wonderful little hammocks by hand. She's amazing. And so they travel with the cats when they go to their new home.
You're talking about a chair hammock, underneath the chair kind of hammock.
Yeah, but if you can imagine it, she makes like a little, how do I describe this? She'll take PVC. She's so good with PVC. She'll take PVC and make a frame. And then it's like a double decker sometimes, but she'll take fleece and she'll sew it and it'll clip in. It's beautiful. And every cat has their own particular pattern or fun thing that she'll find. She's a doll. She's an absolute doll, and she has great stuff. So
yeah, there's a lot. How many people are a member of that group? You have any idea? It's like 10,000, 11,000? I
think we are. Colin's going to shoot me, but I think we're close to 3,000.
Okay.
At any given time. It may be more than that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So they know, yes, Steph is an international smuggler of cats. Not a juggler. A smuggler of cats. Domestic there, okay? Stuff like that. She's done 7. You have a goal of doing at least 1 transport a month for the year, correct?
I do. That's what I would like to do. Or if I can't do 1 in a month, then to double up and do 2 in a month. So
and people donate food, miles, other things to the group that can't travel.
Yeah, correct? They've done that too. We've had some people. I mean, I've donated miles before. When I haven't been able to fly to get to a particular place, I've flown someone in my stead to say, "Hey, can you go and do this?" And then I'll meet you in Dallas or wherever, and then go the rest of the way. So it's a very endearing community, and you want to talk about the human heart. You have a lot of people that come together to help people in those groups. And they're across all professions of life. So that's why I always say, like, our animals bind us and unite us before a lot of other things do.
So basically you have cat rescuers that go into the no-kill shelters, pull a cat, they pay for the adoption or they pay the fees out of pocket, and the person in San Diego, the cat's in Hartford, the person in San Diego pays the fees to adopt and all those reimbursement fees. And then the cat's meow coordinates the driving, the trip, the planes, trains, and automobiles delivery of the cat.
Trains and automobiles. I haven't done a train yet. That would be fun. And the other thing to add in there too is that when these rescue groups go and pull from shelters, there's a whole class of people that share from shelters. And they are, when you want to talk about marketing, these people market. I don't even know if they realize that they're marketing in the sense that we do, but they market. And they share, I hate to say animals on the youth list, but that's basically what it is. Okay. But they share these animals, and it gets out across different boards and different people's, feeds and things like that. And they start collecting, and it's really simple. It's just so cool. They collect pledges, and it'll go to the PayPal accounts of the rescue groups, so that the rescue, because they have a finite amount of money. They run on donations. They're all 501c3s. They're all nonprofits. So they come in and they say, okay, we've got, the $100 or the $70 or however much it's going to be to pull that cat, or the dog, get them vetted, get them taken care of, their shots, their spay, their neuter, whatever, and make sure they're clear to travel, because you also have to make sure that they can travel across state lines, and you want to make sure they're healthy when they go to an adopter or a foster family. So that comes into play too. But there's people all across the country that are like, well, I can't foster for whatever reason. I can't be bed and breakfast. I don't have a reliable car enough to drive, or I work 24/7, so I can't drive. I can't fly because I don't fly that much anyway. I'm just going to donate. And so they'll donate $5, $1, $10, $20, $100. It doesn't matter. I've seen it all across the range. And it raises money, and they get more and more animals pulled that way, and then they get placed. And when they get placed, that's when the transporters and things like that come in and say, distance isn't a problem anymore.
Have there been any horror stories or cats get sick or get lost along the way? You ever heard of that happening?
I have heard of it happening very rarely. It is very rare. I've heard of, there are animals that do get sick. They'll get like a cold or something, or like a urinary infection or something like that. And generally what happens is the foster family who's taking care of them will just hold them for a longer period, or transfer them to someone else who can, if they can't, they'll transfer them to somebody who can, so that they're taken care of and they're secure. But they'll get them healthy, get them better, get them vetted, and then like the transport will pick back up again. So sometimes they do get delayed. I actually did one recently where he's such a doll. He got a cold.
Do you have ever had any cats get catnapped along the way, where the person transporting has kept the cat instead of making the play? There's a yes there.
We call those foster fails.
Foster fails.
But generally speaking, once if an adopter has come into play and says, I'm going to take this animal, be it a cat or a dog, doesn't matter. The golden rule is you get that animal to the adopter. Generally, the adopter is very well vetted out, and they make sure that they're a good person and they're not, some weird, creepy jerk. But when that comes into play, you get the cat or the dog to the adopter. It's just, you don't.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. For anybody that wanted to learn more about the cat's meow and smuggling cats across the country, links there. It's smuggling. It's the cat.
We're not smuggling. We're transporting.
It is, whether you like it or not. A couple comments here.
Documentation.
Laura says this is a great.
Actually, hang on. You'll like this. As far as we're not smuggling, I'm not sure what the other groups do, but our group has passports. They do. We have passports. One of the gals, she's a really amazing, I don't know if graphics artist is the right word, sorry, but she comes in and they make these little booklets, and they're so cute, and they've got the kitty's name on it and their picture and their passport to forever. And so everybody who has a hand in that part of the transport gets to sign off.
Nice.
And leave a message. And so that's when the family actually gets their their baby, then they can go back through and read, it's been a week trip or whatever, and they can see who all was involved. So we're not smuggling.
Nice. Now, Steph, let's talk about it, because we're kind of coming up on an hour here already. It's hard to believe time flies when you're talking cats.
It is hard to believe.
You've got a Facebook page. You've got an Instagram page. What's the handle for it? At Furbabies Podcast, right?
Yes.
Yes. Hashtag at Furbabies Podcast. What are some of the things you're going to be talking about here in the next episodes? You're going to be doing this once a week, once a month, once in a blue moon. How often are you going to have an episode? Because I guarantee people will not be able to get enough of the Furbabies Podcast. Trust me.
I think it would be fun at least once a week.
Okay.
Possibly more than that.
Okay.
We do have a whole list of topics, and we love holidays and things like that.
What are some of those topics that you're going to be talking about?
Actually, bear with my moderately sleep-deprived memory, because we had wicked storms last night, and I had a bunch of fur babies in my face because they were scared. So.
Hashtag not going to insert pun there. All right.
Hashtag yes.
Yeah. So let's say you're going to be talking with a person, an ex-military person who actually did a 3D printing of a cast, or a what do you call it, for the cat? You know what I'm talking about?
Prosthetic.
A prosthetic. Yes, a 3D printed prosthetic for the cat.
Yeah.
That's coming. You're gonna be talking with your vets, with any other people. Give some people some teasers for some upcoming episodes.
Different transport groups that are across the country and in specific areas, different rescue groups. So if some of you guys out there are going, I'd really like to be able to get involved and do something, but I'm not quite sure how. Some groups that we work with that are great people that you can kind of join up and see if it's for you, if you like it. And if there's an opportunity to chime in and to help. I like to talk about different challenges people have with their babies because we all learn from that. And I always take it from I'm not going to judge you. Most of us, we try to learn, dealing with animals that have really tough chronic health conditions is tough. So the more support you can get in that, the better. And I feel like, if I had when I was going through everything with Mitsu, with his kidney failure, it would have been really, in hindsight, it would have been great to have the support that I have now back then. And it's just a lot easier to get through. So I want to be able to give some of that to other people that are going through those things and they feel like they're alone and they're not.
Are you going to do an episode
out there behind you?
Sure. Are you going to do an episode on cat cancer and how you've had a 5-toed cat turn into a 2-toed cat?
Yes. Raimi has a Vulcan foot or a Longhorn foot, depending on what you're a fan of. So we'll get into that too.
He's a cow-toed cat.
He's a feisty cat too. He's actually, I know, I see you. He's literally staring at me.
That's good. Awesome. Well, that's awesome. How do people get a hold of you if they want to get more information from you personally or reach out to you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
That's a really good question. I think on our Facebook page, we are on Instagram.
Send you a private message on Facebook?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Generally, you can find my phone number just about anywhere, but if you do text me or call me, that's fine. Just leave a message.
You want to give that out?
512-507-5663.
Repeat it again.
512-507-5663. Just leave your name, kind of where you're from, so I can get an idea of, time zones and all that good stuff, because I get calls all the time. But leave a message. I do get some weird things lately, and nobody likes to get, weird, random.
Sure. Question for you. Well, she got a comment here. Sharon says, first of all, Laura says, this is a great idea, Stephanie Goodman-Johnson.
Aw.
I love that. Sharon come back and said that to Lord Jordan, Tiny Kitten has a pregnant cat that will have kittens in 2 to 3 weeks. Grandpa Mason will soon have babies to foster. So why don't we do this? So those of you that are watching this, so Sharon and Laura and stuff like that, have your kittens, why don't you post the kittens on here? Maybe we can help them get them adopted out somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's the other thing, actually. I, Tom and I were talking about this. I really, how do I word it? How do I condense it? I'd like to be able to compile information and sources and places to go for a myriad of different issues and health disorders and things like that, and kind of have it in one place, so, because that was one thing that I struggled with, and I will devour the internet. I will go through and research. And it would be cool. There are some things that are in, they're really well together in places, but I'd like to have some of that too. So if you have stories or experiences or things like that and tips and things that you've done that has helped you and helped your baby, I would really love to know that. I know a lot of us out there who would. So
coming soon, the Furbabies Podcast website.
Yeah.
It's under construction. So
definitely under construction. I'm not that tech inclined.
We're getting to work in getting these episodes done. So once again, anything else you want to leave everybody with?
I think we've covered a lot more than I thought we were going to this first round. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. Great job, Steph. All right, everybody. Go out and have something happen. As like Steph said, feel free to reach out to her. Any questions or comments, she's here to help out there as well. Check out some of those websites. Check out insurance company, and always take care of your pets because they'll take care of you.
They do.
Have a good evening, everybody. You have to end it, Steph.
Oh, I gotcha. I have to. Okay. So the live portion. Stop.
Stop recording.
And